Greetings and welcome to Flanigan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanigan, and this episode of Flanigan's Ecologic covers EcoNet News, Volume 26, Issue Number 5, May 31st, 2024. Quote of the Month. What can you do to reduce your wardrobe's impact on the planet? BBC News article on the global clothing glut. Flanigan's Net Positive, the land of enchantment. Sante Fe, New Mexico. What a town. What a state. The land of enchantment. Daughter Sierra is now living there with her man Alex. So off we went to check out the scene. She's thriving in her new sphere. A really hip town, overflowing with art that she loves and rich in southwestern culture. We see her new casita, visit her friend Amber's home and family, check out her workspace, meet her coworkers, stay in one of Sante Fe's classic hotels on the plaza, eat lots of delicious New Mexico cuisine, and hang and bond with Alex's family. One day we visit Ojo Caliente near Taos. We had a few hours of full sunshine before the late afternoon sun gave way to the golden and orange and red colors of sunset, casting artful light in shades on the hills and rock. Ojo Caliente is about an hour north of Sante Fe. The hot springs are beautiful, nestled into the rocks. Springs of varying temperatures and minerals. We soak for hours, in and out of a variety of mineral pools. We slather on mud in the mud bath. What an afternoon and sunset with intermittent sunning on chaise lounges. Watching to the west as its day draws to a close. As the temperature dropped, we made our way to the cafe where locally grown organic veggies and salads are featured and consumed. Sante Fe boasts that it is the oldest capital in the United States. It was originally a Mexican territorial capital, founded in 1610 as the capital of Nuevo Mexico. In 1846, the United States declared war on Mexico, which led to the annexation of Texas and then New Mexico in 1848. New Mexico officially became the 47th state in January of 1912. Sante Fe had a population of 87,505 at the time of its last census in 2020. It is the fourth most populous city in New Mexico after Albuquerque, Las Cruces, and Rio Rancho. Sante Fe is at an altitude of 7,200 feet and has its own ski area, Ski Sante Fe, with a base elevation of 10,350 feet and runs that begin at 12,000 feet. Taos is about an hour away. In terms of size, New Mexico is the 10th largest U.S. state. Its 2.1 million people make it 36th in terms of population. It features huge open expanses of desert, as well as mountainous forests, nearly all devoid of humanity. The Rio Grande River flows south through the state, its valley bisecting the state. 1/3 of its land area is federally owned. The state is also home to the Sandia and Los Alamos National Laboratories. It was the site of our nation's first nuclear testing. The labs played key roles in the Manhattan Project. Georgia O'Keeffe is a treasured soul in Sante Fe. We're tempted to buy a hat and stroll from the plaza and visit the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum. Considered a modernist artist, O'Keeffe had a 70-year career in art. She was called the mother of American modernism. Born in Wisconsin, she studied and lived in Chicago, Virginia, and New York City, where she had a long professional and personal relationship with art dealer and photographer Alfred Stieglitz. O'Keeffe remained in New York until 1929, then began to spend more time in the Southwest, her art impressed upon by images of animal skulls and dried, twisted tree limbs and trunks. After Stieglitz's death in 1946, O'Keeffe was in New Mexico for the next 40 years until her death in 1886. She was drawn to New Mexico and loved its light, the sun's colors on the desert rocks and skies. The museum is well done. Her art and personality impressed upon us. New Mexico has the second highest percentage of Native Americans of all U.S. states. Only Alaska has a higher percentage. The current population of Native Americans is 12.4% of the state's population. There are 23 Indian tribes in New Mexico, 19 Pueblos, 3 Apaches, and the Navajo Nation, the largest of New Mexico's tribes. Each tribe is a sovereign nation with its own government, lifestyles, traditions, and cultures. Events held on tribal lands are open to the public at the tribal community's discretion. New Mexico is called the land of enchantment, known for its wonderful vistas and expanses that humble humanity. Its ski areas boast best-in-class powder snow. Beneath the surface, New Mexico has abundant fossil fuels. In the past 5 years, its oil production has boomed, and it is now the second largest crude oil producing state. It produced 13% of the U.S. crude oil production in 2022, second only to Texas. It is one of the top 10 natural gas producing states. Ranked 7th, it was responsible for 6% of the nation's natural gas withdrawals in 2022. New Mexico is also home to 3% of the nation's estimated recoverable coal reserves. It is one of the 15 states that produce methane from coal beds, second only to Colorado in this pursuit, producing 26% of the nation's total coal bed methane. The transition is on in New Mexico from brown to green. New Mexico ranks as the 9th state in terms of renewable energy generation. In 2022, 35% of the state's power generation was powered with wind. Today, New Mexico's renewable portfolio is providing 43% of the state's power requirement, up from 9% in 2013. New Mexico is second only to Arizona in days of sunshine. The state has tremendous solar potential to be tapped. According to the Solar Energy Industries Association, it ranks 21st in the nation for its solar capacity, with only 1,890 megawatts at the end of 2023. Nevertheless, solar provides 8.21% of the state's power requirement. Meta, Walmart, and Target have all gone solar there. In 2018, Facebook shook things up by coming to the state with its commitment to 100% renewable energy use. The large investor-owned utility there, PNM, acquired the rights to source renewable energy for Facebook. It now delivers power in a series of power purchase agreements that provide green power from 16 solar energy centers that came online in 2018. El Paso Electric also has power agreements with 5 solar energy centers in New Mexico. In April, New Mexico was awarded $156 million by the federal government for the Solar for All program to provide solar for low-income and rural households. The New Mexico program will support grants and low-interest loans targeted at 20,910 qualifying households that would otherwise not be able to access this form of clean, renewable energy. This will be done in a number of ways. For instance, providing access to community solar projects, what are also called shared solar access projects. In tribal areas that are off-grid, provisions will be made to pair solar with batteries. A farewell breakfast, and we're off. The drive from Sante Fe is less than an hour, a time for us to transition from our weekend in the mountain town of Sante Fe. So great to see a daughter happy in a place and time with partner, friends, mission, and creative interests. What a quick, fulfilling immersion it was. Quality time, soaking with loved ones, seeing old friends, both in good places, meeting new friends and co-workers, and connecting with new family. A very nice dive into the land of enchantment indeed. Global clothing glut. Crazy to think that our clothes might contribute as much as 8 to 10% of global carbon dioxide emissions, more than aviation and shipping combined. Textiles rely heavily on petrochemical products that are oil and gas derivatives. Polyester has overtaken cotton as the backbone of the textile production. The World Bank suggests that global clothing sales could increase by 65% by 2030. Our global society is consuming more clothing than ever, partly due to fast fashion. Worse yet, much new product and nearly all used product goes to landfills or is incinerated. British shoppers apparently buy more than any other European country, perhaps influenced more by fast fashion. A BBC article queries readers, What can you do to reduce your wardrobe's impact on the planet? The article found that in England, shoppers in the 16 to 24-year-old range buy clothes online at least once a week. Most of the impact is related to raw materials, like 2.5% of the world's farmland being dedicated to cotton, and the 342 million barrels of oil used each year to make polyester. The production of clothes requires 43 million tons of chemicals a year and major amounts of water, more than 2,500 gallons per pair of jeans. Fast fashion is a term that describes the quick turnover of fashion trends and the move towards cheap, mass-produced clothing. New lines are constantly released and purchased, and wardrobes are overflowing with clothes. Oxfam research suggests that the average Brit has 57 unworn items. Textiles are the second largest product group made from petrochemical plastics, just behind packaging. Textiles are made of 15% of all petrochemical products, polyester and nylon, and in hundreds of years of cotton's dominance, the global market for polyester yarn is expected to grow from $106 billion to $175 billion by 2023, a level representing some 92 million tons a year. And the growth has come at major cost. In 2015, polyester production caused the emissions of 282 billion tons of carbon dioxide, triple that of cotton. Another cost relates to microplastics. Bloomberg NEF reports that clothing made of synthetic fibers is a prime source of microplastic pollution that is especially harmful to marine life. These materials shed plastic particles with every wash and wear. Fully 35% of all the microplastic in the ocean are traced back to textiles. They are the largest source of microplastics today. Why is polyester, plastic clothing, so appealing? It is good and hardy. It is versatile and can be fashioned into anything from faux fur to silky dresses and athletic clothes and Gucci skirts. Lots of current clothing is made of textiles that are blends of fibers from polyester, nylon, acrylic, and elastane. This makes these textiles impossible to recycle. The amount of clothing has ballooned. The U.S. EPA finds that the clothing and footwear waste generated by Americans each year rose from 1.4 million tons in 1960 to over 13 million tons in 2018. At least 70% of this ended up in landfills. Often the pace of apparel production exceeds demand, resulting in unsold inventory, overproduction, creating a glut of inventory. In one noted case in 2017, a Swedish power plant reportedly burned mountains of discarded clothing. So what are the solutions? They are, in a word, nascent, but important. The United Nations has launched an initiative, the Act Now Fashion Challenge. There is a small but growing movement towards sustainability and ecologically grown cotton. One brand collects and recycles underwear. One of EcoMotion's podcasts features slow fashion. Some forms of new polyester are now made from bioplastics, using natural polymers. Some companies like Patagonia are working towards sustainability in the textile area. There are a cadre of companies working to take waste textiles and to repurpose them, recovering and processing materials to make new yarn. Others are working to produce recycled clothing from discarded clothing. Seaweed clothing. Seaweed, technically macroalgae, refers to thousands of species of macroscopic, multicellular marine algae. It comes in red, brown, and green macroalgae. One species, kelp, laminaria and macrocystasis, provides essential habitat for fisheries. Planktonic algae plays a vital role in capturing carbon and producing half of the world's oxygen. The Food and Agriculture Organization reports that world production in 2019 was over 39 million tons, with 58 produced in China, followed by Indonesia, South Korea, and the Philippines. Kelp is in focus. It is a carbon-negative crop. It has a huge potential for climate change mitigation. One study determined that covering 9% of the world's oceans with kelp forests could provide enough biomethane to replace all of today's needs for fossil fuel energy, removing 53 billion tons of CO2 per year and restoring pre-industrial levels. Seaweed is abundant in our oceans, growing at extraordinary rates in salt water while sequestering CO2. It is high in iron, calcium, iodine, vitamins A, C, E, B12, and more. As such, it has been a diet staple in Asia since prehistoric times. It's loaded with essential substances like trace elements, amino acids, minerals, antioxidants, and vitamins. Humans have harvested it for thousands of years. It has been used for medicine, food, fertilizer, fuel, skincare, and more. In ancient Rome, it was used to address wounds. Today, seaweed is even being used to make bio-based skis. In the 1960s, Japanese textile manufacturers began to experiment and use seaweed fabric to fortify clothing. In World War I, manufacturers experimented with different materials to fortify fabric for soldiers. Today, seaweed clothing is an alternative to fossil fuel-based polyester and nylon, which together make up 60% of all clothes. Kelp fabric is not purely seaweed. It is made of two sustainable parts, tree cellulose and kelp. It is made by spinning natural cellulose from beech or eucalyptus trees and seaweed together, creating a soft, stretchy, durable yarn that is used to weave fabrics. The resulting material is biodegradable, absorbent, soft, and breathable. It's an alternative to cotton and wool. One seaweed fabric supplier is Seacell. Its products is 81% lyocell and 19% seaweed. It has been used by Lululemon in some of its yoga clothes for nearly 2 decades. It is now also being used for bedding and towels. It's also making its way into mattresses. Seaweed has the potential to replace plastics, not just for clothing, but for things like plastic bags and film alternatives. There are other benefits of using seaweed. The Seacell product is smoother and silkier than wool or cotton. It features breathability, moisture wicking, durability, and high levels of sun protection. Of course, seaweed requires no fresh water, in stark contrast to cotton. A single cotton t-shirt can require hundreds of gallons of water in its production. Lululemon advertised its use of seaweed-based products, but got caught with unsubstantiated claims of being anti-inflammatory and having antibacterial properties. Lululemon still carries the fabric in a line of its clothing, but without the medical claims. It now focuses on comfort and breathability. The New York Times calls seaweed an increasingly common, sustainable, regenerative, natural product. Demand for fabric made from seaweed is reportedly off the charts. South Korea's solar bike path. It's in South Korea, in the median of a busy highway, a 20-mile-long bike path covered by a canopy of solar panels. The highway and bikeway run between Daejeon and Sejong, the latter being the administrative capital of South Korea. The continuous canopy of panels shields cyclists from the sun while generating power for highway signage and area lighting. Some simply call it a roof on top of a bike road. It isn't the first solar bike path. The Netherlands Solar Road employs a design in which bicyclists ride on top of solar panels. In South Korea, they ride beneath them. The South Korean system is accessed through subterranean tunnels that allow cyclists to enter and exit the bike path. Barriers protect riders from the 3 lanes of traffic on either side. Naturally, concerns over air quality from ICE car fumes will subside as EVs gain popularity and use. Plugging into streetlights. Double duty. Instead of just providing light, what if streetlights could also provide EV charging stations? The power is there, and highly efficient LEDs have freed up capacity for charging. Enter the Streetlight-Mounted charger by startup Volt Post. After small pilots in New York and Detroit, tough places to build EV stations, its modular, street-proof system is commercially available. Volt Post and others are addressing fundamental urban EV realities. It is uncommon for city dwellers to have their own driveway or garage where they can charge an EV, so consumers will want street parking and street charging. Cities have underground power grids, adding to installation cost. It's expensive and challenging to install new chargers in urban environments, cutting trenches into streets, curbs, and sidewalks. It's hard enough to find parking, and inconceivable to easily find parking and EV charging. But streetlights and lampposts are everywhere. Why not meld this supply of locations with growing demand? Voltpost has put a lot of time and energy into protecting its systems from bad actors. Its power electronics and control systems are contained within a protective aluminum outer casing that completely surrounds the light post. Voltpost uses a 20-foot retractable charging cable mounted 8 feet off the ground, only a short length of which is exposed to vandals or thieves. In Europe, Ubitricity has installed thousands of light post mounted chargers. In Los Angeles, there are 600 light post mounted chargers that have been installed since 2022. Chargers provided by Flow, ChargePoint, and Shell Recharge. In each case, one of the technological challenges and limitations is voltage. In Europe, 240 volt power is common. In America, many lighting circuits are 120 volt, allowing only for slower charging. EV highlights from Oakland and Shenzhen. Just days ago, Oakland, California was proud to report that its school district is the first in the country to have an all-electric school bus fleet. Thanks to collaboration between the Oakland Unified School District and Zoom, a student transportation company, all 74 of the district's buses are fully electric. The buses will also be providing energy to the city and utility when not in use, partnering and providing Pacific Gas and Electric Company 2.7 megawatts of VGI, Vehicle Grid Integrated Capacity, from Zoom's bus facility in Oakland. Families in Oakland are disproportionately disadvantaged and affected by high rates of asthma and exposure to air pollution from diesel fuels. Cleaner student transportation is considered a game changer, providing greater equity and affording students from disadvantaged neighborhoods with freedom from bus emissions and thus greater health, the backbone of a stronger chance of success in the classroom. Zoom notes that moving students is equivalent to the largest mass transit system in the nation. U.S. buses transport 27 million students twice daily. Over 90% of the nation's approximately 500,000 school buses run on carbon-based fuels, releasing over 8.4 million tons of greenhouse gases annually. Zoom's goal is to electrify 10,000 school buses and to supply up to 1 million kilowatt hours to the grids annually. It's called the City of Superchargers. It's BYD's hometown. Shenzhen is China's third largest city after Shanghai and Beijing. And now its EV charging network has surpassed gas stations. The number of ultra-fast DC chargers there exceeds the number of gas stations. Shenzhen now has 362 supercharging stations, and one of these, a Shell BYD project near the airport, has 258 charging dispensers. For the past several years, Shenzhen has experienced 10% year-after-year increases in charging infrastructure and access. The government has supported the transition, expanding the number of NEVs in the city, new energy vehicles, to 970,000 units in December of 2023, and now approximately 60% of the automotive market. Batteries becoming largest form of grid-scale storage. Less than 7 years since the world's first large battery was installed in Australia in 2016, the Tesla Big Battery at Hornsdale, the capacity of battery storage is expected to soon overtake that of pump storage hydro facilities worldwide. The milestone is expected to occur in 2025, while batteries have been derided as an immature technology. In 2020, there was a total capacity of 18 gigawatts of battery energy storage systems, BESS, versus 160 gigawatts of pumped hydro storage, PHES. Fully 90% of the total was PHES, but by 2024, the PHES share had shrunk to 56%, with 157 gigawatts of BESS and 197 gigawatts of PHES. In 2025, and given exponential growth of BESS, one noted that the balance tips forever. Batteries are becoming a significant factor on the power grids of today. BESS is arguably just as mature and bankable an asset class as PHES, which has been the gold standard for investors. Capacity is one thing, Storage duration is another. Most battery systems in Australia have only 1 to 2 hours of storage, reflecting their investors' focus on selling grid services such as frequency control and system security. Now there are more 4-hour systems and some 8-hour battery requirements to capture and shift solar and wind power for later use. That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanigan's EcoLogic. We'll see you next time.